If you've been like me over the last few months, you've been asking yourself the question, if I'm going to be putting any more money into this market for a chance for the bull run to continue in 2026, what is the best investment? Is it Bitcoin or is it altcoins? What are the pros? What are the cons for both? That is what we're going to try to answer in this video. The first thing we have to do before we actually even start is think about, why are we buying altcoins of Bitcoin? For the most part, I think we're all buying, at least in this circumstance, for 2026. Call it 3, 6, 9, 12, or even 18 months from now. Now, there's two scenarios I want to look at here. There is a base case, okay, where I think over the next few months into 2026, maybe even for the first quarter of 26, I think we'll kind of be trending down or in kind of a bit of a channel. I think a bit of chop. Then in 2026, my base case is we go up. Let me just get that loud and clear for the start. Call it 200,000, 150,000, 300,000, whatever. But again, base case here is roughly going down or chopping and then having a somewhat blow-off top moment for Bitcoin. We also have, again, 1,000 different circumstances that could actually play out here. We could have a base case of that similar thing, but then a best case into a really, really high number for BTC. We could have a base case, worst case. Okay, so like I said here, but then we actually go down in 2026. Or we could have a worst case. Okay, so we just go down here to this support level, and then we go down even further in 2026. Again, best case. I think we come back up to the highs over the next few months, and then blast. Or a worst case, best case. I mean, guys, you can get the idea here. There is an infinite amount of possibilities that could happen. And it's important to look at Bitcoin here, not at every single altcoin, because whatever Bitcoin does, altcoins will follow. So you're sitting there going, why have you even mentioned all of these possibilities? Well, I've mentioned these because no one knows what's going to happen in 2026. Now, I'm a part of the group that believes 2026 will be a good year, hence why my base case for 26 is actually quite bullish. It's a blow off top. But any black swan or random thing could happen to send markets into a complete panic. And so this is why when thinking about Bitcoin or altcoins buying right now, we have to account for both extremes. The good thing about Bitcoin is that if it's bullish, Bitcoin will be bullish, not as much as altcoins. And if it's bearish or bad news, Bitcoin will obviously go down, but of course altcoins will go down even more. But hold on, this is only one part of the equation. Let's add in a few other factors, because we have to really establish our time horizons here. What I mean is, if you're buying Bitcoin or altcoins, think about it. What is my goal with buying now? When do I plan to actually sell? Look at Bitcoin in the last cycle, for example. 50% of the crypto market right now believes we are in the equivalent of this sort of dead cat bounce. We're going to get trapped here, thinking the bull run's going to continue, and these 4-year cycle believers believe we're going to go into a bear market. Well, again, I don't believe this will happen. I believe it'll go up like this into 2026 as my base case, but let's pretend, for argument's sake, we are roughly here right now in the grand scheme of things. Well, obviously buying Bitcoin back over here, if you have a long enough time horizon, waiting 3.6 years, which in the grand scheme of things isn't really that long at all, you would have made literally a 3x to the very top of this cycle. So yes, if you got trapped here, you're still making money, and this will likely be the case, obviously, in the future as well. But it doesn't quite work the same with altcoins, at least most altcoins anyway. Most will not recover. So if you bought Cardano, which I would consider one of the better projects in terms of it's remained in the top 10 to 15 cryptocurrencies now for quite some time. If you bought this high market cap blue chip back then, it's taken you 3.8 years and you've barely, depending on where you bought in this time, broken even. Okay, so think about that for a second. Altcoins, even the better ones, you may not, in the worst case, we're talking about going into a bear market here, of course, you may not get your pretty much investment back ever. Or maybe if you do, it's likely going to be years before it actually gets to break even again. So obviously, if you're thinking longer term, it just makes sense in most cases to obviously be buying BTC, but I'm sure many of you know that already. If you're thinking more short term, like I said, the next 6, 12, even 18 months, or even shorter term than that, I want you to consider the other side of the equation here, which is looking at the short term for both Bitcoin and altcoins. Keep in mind, again, this is assuming the worst. I want to make one thing very clear. We could go up, like I said before, in the best case, or base case, best case, we could do this, and altcoins will fly from here. But again, it's always important at this stage, I think, in the cycle, prepare for the worst, especially if you have been buying altcoins for this period of time, which I'll talk more about here in one moment in regards to myself. So obviously, Bitcoin from that stage, many of us think we are in right now, which I disagree with anyway. But over 7 months, BTC fell 60% to the December 2022 lows. Now, we compare that with, again, Cardano, which, again, remember, was one of the larger market cap coins, meaning that it actually fell 75% here from that same time period. So imagine small caps. I think most altcoins in the mid to small cap, micro cap areas get demolished. I'm talking about going down 90, 95, 99%. Most teams give up. Most projects run out of revenue. Therefore, they can't self-fund. The VC capital is worn down from the cycle, and ultimately, they just leave the project and abandon it. We don't want to be in those camps, so even the larger cap coins going down this far is concerning. As many of us know, it's part of the game we are in, being crypto and altcoins. But this is just to show you that in the short term, things can really, really be quite painful. And like I said, even in the long term, most coins won't recover from such a crash. I know I'm being quite bearish here. I understand some of you guys are going, oh my God, Corin, this is just so bearish right now. Why are you talking about this? It's not to scare anyone. It's to just be objective at what is the likely outcome. We can talk about best case and base case, but I think right now it's best to talk about the worst case just in case. A lot of cases being thrown around here. Anyway, this great chart from Into the Cryptoverse, Ben Cohen, okay? We can actually see the advanced decline index here of altcoins. This is the top 100 pretty much going down over this whole entire time. Whereas, if we look at the top 10 altcoins, they've had a much better success rate, although they haven't actually hit the all-time highs so far they had in the last cycle. And the top 25 coins as well, a little bit worse for wear than the top 10, but definitely way better than the top 100. And this is saying something. This to me says that obviously in the worst case, Bitcoin's always going to do better than altcoins, and we know this. But if you've got the itch to buy altcoins, if you must put money into the altcoin market because you want exposure to the best case or the base case, in my opinion, for 2026, then you don't want to look really outside the top 10, maybe even top 25 altcoins. Now, like I said, I've been buying altcoins now for some time. This is the others chart. I literally have not stopped buying since around, I'd say 2022, even early 2023. I've been buying the highs, the lows, everything in between. And while my altcoin positions right now are down, like I think everyone else's, I know these altcoins have low liquidity, meaning they're very easy to pump. This is ICP's exchange list and its pairs list, and you can see here the depth is extremely, extremely low. We're talking about pumping a coin like ICP, which right now is around a $3 billion market cap. You can 2x this, so add $3 billion of market cap with around $140 million of actual buy pressure, accounting for sell pressure and the order book growth. So what this means is market cap's a lie, guys. You don't need much money to push these coins up. That is actually part of the reason why I have conviction in my altcoins, and I don't need to be buying the dips constantly with my altcoin bags, because I know they can go back up to my break even very quickly and then into profit very, very fast, especially if some of the things I mentioned in one moment happen. So again, in other words, I am not too concerned with buying more altcoins, no matter how far down they are, to bring down my average buy price. I feel adequately exposed to the upside potential, even though they're down. Now, obviously, if you're someone who hasn't purchased near as much as I have with altcoins over the last few years, you may feel more inclined to want to buy altcoins right now because they're at such a good discount. It does depend, obviously, on your scenario. Talking about ICP, this coin went from a 1.5 billion market cap to a 4.9 billion market cap in 8 days. Okay, it went up a 3.5x in 8 days in bearish conditions, guys. There was no liquidity. This, I believe, is the case for many altcoins. If your average buy price is roughly here at $4.50, okay, you were down substantially at one point, down to $2.90. It looked grim. This thing floated back up, and again, you're roughly speaking in a 2x, over a 2x profit from your average buy price. So this is why I am not necessarily worried about always buying and buying and buying my altcoin bags right now, even though when the opportunity presents itself, I definitely will continue DCA. But talking about buying alts versus Bitcoin, I think it's pretty obvious that at this stage, looking towards Bitcoin allows you to prevent the further downside potential in the short term and also the long term, while still being exposed to the market. If we pump from liquidity, we'll go up. If we fall, obviously BTC will just take less of a hit. Now, I'm not saying I have all the answers, by the way. This is just theoretical. This is just how I interpret this market and the conversation of BTC or altcoins right now. But for me, it's all about capital preservation. Like I said, I've got my positions in alts. I am very, very, very happy with how much money I have in the market. Again, when the market comes back, because it's all low liquidity, these coins will move very, very quickly and surprise a lot of people. And so again, I'm exposed to the upside. I have the high gain potential. So for me, it's more so about capital preservation when I'm looking to buy right now. Exposure to the market with Bitcoin, but also preservation. And for those worried like Kyron, well, what about if I'm buying BTC right now and all of a sudden the market rips? What are the signals that will tell me, okay, take your profit on Bitcoin and look to rotate into altcoins because Altseason's happening? Well, I'm going to give you a few indications here that I think are very, very reliable Altseason indicators and will happen, I think, in 2026, at least right now. One of those, of course, is BTC dominance. I think the heads up we'll get when we start to break through the 57% level here will be a good wake up call. Obviously, we break through that. I think the warning to get into alts will be around 55% roughly here, and I think we'll free fall down to, roughly speaking, 49%. And anything below that, of course, I'm not even going to prepare for that. I think we possibly fall around the 50% mark, maybe a little bit lower, but you kind of want to start thinking about that rotation somewhere in that pipeline up there. The next thing is ETH BTC breaking above this historic sticking point. If it does this with confidence, that, of course, is a really good indication that things will likely begin getting better for altcoins. Of course, the copper to gold ratio as well, when this chart bounces off this red line and goes higher, historically speaking, we see the business cycle in the bottom here follow. And of course, when the business cycle follows down here, this is the others to BTC chart. The others to BTC chart goes up, which means, of course, we have the alt seasons. It is all interconnected, guys, because obviously altcoins, crypto, we're on that furthest point along the risk curve. So when retail, when institutions, when everyone in the economy is risk on, money floats to the end of the risk curve, which means, again, we have our alt seasons, historically speaking anyway. Again, this is ETH chart here, so you can see breaking all-time highs is definitely a bonus. We haven't quite broken through the all-time high just yet. I mean, we whipped above it briefly, but convincingly going above this, I think, is a massive, massive signal as well. Now, again, I want to hone in here on Bitcoin versus the total three, so altcoins minus Bitcoin and Ethereum, because, again, that feeling of, oh my God, I'm going to miss the major pump here, you know, if Bitcoin starts to move and altcoins start to move. Well, I want to hone in a little bit more and show you the last cycle. Okay, so BTC broke all-time highs here, and then, you know, altcoins were down here. So altcoins hadn't quite broken all-time highs yet, and then they went up. They went from a 176 billion market cap and 9x to their all-time high. I think there'll be ample time to make that critical decision of, there is a clear rotation happening here. Liquidity is flowing in. Everything is reacting as it normally does for the premature alt season. And therefore, I might want to make that move. And like I said, I think the critical factor here is really liquidity. We've so far seen Bitcoin go up and altcoins basically trend sideways this time because Bitcoin's had so much adoption. Altcoins haven't had that. It hasn't had the headline news being in the mainstream media. And so, of course, altcoins have suffered because they depend solely on that liquidity. So when that liquidity actually comes in addition to everything else that normally plays out, then that is a really strong signal, at least personally for myself. So this would likely happen once BTC, like I said, breaks all-time highs of roughly, $126,000. Alts will be right behind it, and that is, again, a very clear signal. Now, look, this video isn't sitting here to go, hey, you guys should all buy BTC right now, not altcoins. I'm not saying that at all. Look, again, at this chart here from Ben Cohen, the top 10 altcoins haven't done all that bad. Of course, coins move in and out of the top 10 all the time, so you've got to pick your poison carefully. But ultimately, they haven't really done all that bad at all. Likewise, the top 25 haven't also done that bad at all. It's the top 100. It's the lower market cap coins that will suffer in the worst possible case. But like I said, they'll also do really well in the best case as well. So it's thinking about the worst case now, but preparing for the best, I think, or other way around. Expect the best, prepare for the worst, something like that. But you guys get the idea. This video isn't designed to convince anyone to buy crypto right now and particularly buy Bitcoin, but it's to show you the outcomes. It's to give you the pros and the cons and allow you to make that decision yourself. If you ask me, what am I doing? Well, for one, I haven't sold my altcoin bags at all. Like I said, I'm still exposed to the upside potential, and I really do believe that liquidity flowing in will send these things up very, very quickly. If I'm going to be buying right now, I'm going to be slowly DCAing into some altcoins, but most of that's going to be gravitated towards the top market cap altcoins, if any at all. And then I think buying BTC is a no-brainer. You can be exposed to the upside and make that clear rotation into altcoins at the right time. Look, you're never going to time the bottom, right? Doing that, you're not going to be buying the exact lows for altcoins, but I want you to think about it. When have you ever bought the exact bottom of anything? That's not the goal. The goal is to lower your average buy price if you can in the right conditions. Once we know there is a strong tailwind and we can offset the risk with Bitcoin. Like I said, not convincing you to do the same thing. It's just the pros and the cons. Thank you all for watching this far into the video, by the way. If you have, let me know with a like down below, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Take good care. Bye-bye.